Hey everybody, are we going, Mr. Cameraman? All right. So this again is from my yard, and by now you've noticed that we have neighbors who like to come over and watch us film. Also, I have a lot of different places in my yard, and you notice I have my gloves on. I've washed them out a couple times. They're getting these gloves are 10 years old, and they kind of actually look like it. I might get a pair of new gloves over the winter time because now it's really close to October 1st. And as you can see, I have an apple tree here. This is just a regular apple tree. And you say, oh geez, they got some funny looking leaves on it. Well, it's at the end of the season for one thing. I want to show you one thing here. This particular leaf right here, you can see the here, let me get it a little closer. Okay, you can see the holes, you can see the discoloration. That's because there's a lot of bugs that get at these trees. I'm going to dump that right on the ground. And there's Japanese beetles that get at them. There's Colorado potato bugs that get at them. There's all kinds of flying, bugs that get at them. There's things that crawl, biting ants, all kinds of stuff. And this is a dwarf tree. Now it's bent over because it's filled with apples. A lot of these apples and a lot of the pears that we're going to show you later on are going to be donated to the Salvation Army. I do this every year. I donate as much food as I can to the Salvation Army. I always have. There's another place that I used to donate to, but they're not going so strong like they were, and I've kind of stopped that. Not that I had any problem with them. I won't even say the name, but because things have changed and they've gotten a little funny, not with people, but with their situation. So that's the only thing that I'm going to say. But this is everybody talks about organics. Now this is something I've been talking about for a long, long, long time. What goes into your soil and what you spray on your food, i.e., apples. I got an apple right here. This is a green one that actually drops. Sometimes they do drop. This is not turned red. By the way, this is just a little Macintosh. I have Washington apples. I've got Granny Smith apples. I've got all different kinds of apple trees, and it's not really an orchard, but I have a lot of trees. And sometimes they just drop because something happens in the chemical distribution within the tree and the fruit, and it just drops. That's the way it goes, okay? Now, did I spray anything on here? Yes, I did. And I'm not going to do a demonstration on this today, but one of the things that I do is I make my own insecticide. And if you want to keep things organic, and this is for people who want to get back to the basics, okay? I've been talking about what goes into the soil and what shouldn't go into the soil for many, 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 many years. I talked about it way back when I was the master gardener to Wisconsin Public Radio. I haven't been that for a long time. However, I am a Wisconsin State Fair judge for the state of Wisconsin through the Department of Agriculture. Yes, I am one of the. I have one of the big licenses, folks. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so anyway, this particular tree. You say, oh, God, I see a lot of different stuff on here. I'm going to pick one tree. Hopefully, the other apples won't fall off. Okay, that came off really easy. If it comes off really easy, you can see there's some discoloration there. Okay, and to keep this organic and to make your own, I make pyrethrin. Now, I'm going to tell you what that is later. Okay. It's an organic insecticide. And I'll tell you what it's made out of a little bit. You see some discoloration, you can see some dark spots. That's a fungus that travels through the air, okay? It normally lands, all you do is you wash it off in your sink. As a matter of fact, a lot of times you can rub this stuff off. See, the black part is rubbing off. You just wash them in the sink. When you get a bag of apples from the store, and by the way, yes, these are sweet. What you can do is just take a little brush, rub it off, clean it up. It looks just like an apple from the store. As a matter of fact, I did a demonstration in one of the big local grocery stores around here. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to thank everybody for watching because the infomercial that we did for Wassa Computer, he told us just the other day he has had several hundred, more than several hundred views on his infomercial. His business has gone up by about 110%, and that is not an exaggeration. So getting back to this, this is okay. This dark stuff here, that's a fungus that travels through the air. It's very easy to get off. You just wash it off. That's all. When I hand the donations to the Salvation Army, they will do that there. I don't even have to do that. I just got to give them the food. I have told them many times that it's very easy to do. They've done it. They know what to expect from me. I do this every year. I've been doing this every year to the Salvation Army for over 10 years, so it's been quite a long time. I'm going to start putting these apples in here. No, I'm not going to wash them. Most commercial apple growers would have them picked and they go right into a big barrel of water where they get turned around and all this stuff comes off. It looks just like an apple from the store when you get done. So what I spray them with is my own insecticide. And I'm going to put this in the bag right over here. I got a number of tools over here too that you can use for stuff like this. Now, as I said, this is an organically grown apple tree. I did not start with an apple tree that I purchased. I literally grew this from seed. I got a McIntosh apple, or maybe a couple apples on sale from the store, or maybe I bought some that were bruised and they sold them to me for less money. Ate off them what we could, and then I actually planted the seeds. Now, to go from seed to an apple tree that doesn't have any fruit on it takes 6 to 8 years. But to go from seed to what we call a viable apple tree, which I've sprayed with pyrethrin, and I will tell you what that is in a minute. What happens is that takes from seed to a viable apple tree anywhere from 18 to about 22, maybe 25 years. So yes, I grew this tree from seed. There's a tree over there that I grew from seed, much bigger than this one. That tree is 40 years old. This tree is like 35 years old. And it's a dwarf tree. I made sure it was dwarf. I did not want it to get big. As you can see, if you point straight up there, Mr. Cameraman, there's a whole bunch of great big huge white pines behind it. They were pretty big when I started. So no, we didn't cut them down. And yes, it is supposed to weep like that. It's called a weeping dwarf McIntosh apple tree. Now, the reason you see so many is because this tree is really old and it hasn't actually gotten past its stage of producing apples. It will produce apples, this many apples. As you can see here, there's literally hundreds of them on there. And they're pretty good size too. So I'm going to give quite a bit of these apples to the Salvation Army. Anyway, as you can see, it's kind of weighted over by the number of apples on here. But the branches are strong. And I will tell you that this tree is going to produce for probably the next 4 or 5 years. Okay. And then what I will do, what I've done all along, is I'll take apples each and every year and I plant them around my property. So I've got apple trees that are sometimes 5 years old, sometimes 10 years old, sometimes even 20 years old. This one, there's one down there, we can't see it from here, but they're all 35, 40, even 45 years old. Now, when you get an apple tree that's 22 years old, that's a ripe tree, okay? Sometimes it takes 25 years. It just depends on the growing area. It depends on the growing season. It depends on what's in your soil, and what is in your soil is very, very important. And I have been telling people for many, 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 many years that you have to have an organic basis in your soil, because if you don't, you won't get the necessary vitamins and minerals like calcium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, just all kinds of stuff. Sulfates, iron sulfates, magnesium sulfates. You won't get them, and then they won't be in the fruit, okay? This apple right here, okay, hopefully a whole bunch of them will not. Okay, they're coming off really easy. As you can see, this is green. It's kind of like lime green. That's the stem. If it were a tiny bit riper, and I do mean it just a tiny bit, even a couple days, it would be a little less green and a little bit more white or even kind of brownish. So I'm going to put this in here. These are all going. Now, some of these, my husband and I have eaten quite a few, and we've even given quite a few away. Some of these as you can see, are just, they're going to drop. And here's an indication of a bug-filled leaf right here. There's all kinds of flying things that get on there. And yes, I've sprayed them with my pyrethrin. Okay, what is pyrethrin? I'm not going to tell you just yet. If those of you who are watching want to look it up, be my guest, because it comes from a flower that I've talked about many times. As I do this, okay, now something went wrong with this one. There's a bug, something that got in there, and trust me, this can all be cleaned off. You wash them off. If you have apples like this in the store, either that or people will make pies out of them. There's a McIntosh, so man, it makes really good pies. What happens is the bugs are going to get so far on any plant. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a flower, say it's a hydrangea, say it's an apple tree, a pear tree, or even a palm tree that you have outside. And yes, I have some pretty big palms inside my house. What happens is all the bugs, you're not going to eliminate all the bugs all the time. Okay, even if you spray your pyrethrin many times. Okay, a lot of you are saying, what the heck is what is that stuff? I never even heard of that. Okay, so it's an insecticide. And when you buy something off the shelf, okay, what happens is most people don't read the ingredients. It's got some kind of different oil in there, and it's got something added here, something added there. And it doesn't it doesn't matter what the ingredient is if it doesn't harm the environment. And I'm not a tree hugger by any means. I am much more conservative than that. And the point is that if these big apple orchards, and there are some in Washington State, for instance, and Michigan, they have not hundreds of apples, but they have thousands, maybe almost millions of apples that they harvest and sell to grocery chains all over the United States, sometimes all over the world. Some of our fruit goes over to France. Okay, not my fruit but I know people who grow, and they send people buy their apples from apple orchards right here in the state of Wisconsin, over in other countries, over in Europe. It's important as to what goes in it. Now, the reason I keep talking about pyrethrin is because it all goes inside us. And there's a lot of people in this world, men, who say, geez, I may be losing some of my hormones, okay? Well, hormones are based on many different minerals, all right? You can look it up for yourself. You can read this stuff for yourself. Iron, zinc, magnesium, potassium, all kinds of stuff. I'll pick another one here. Part of this too, folks, the leaves being like this, part of this is also the end of the season. And there comes a point where the apples are already formed, they're doing a good job, and the apples look pretty good, even though you got to wash this off. And you just say, hey, look, I'm tired of spraying. It's already October 1st, and I don't want to spray anymore. The fruit's already here. Like I said, the people of the Salvation Army, they know they have to wash them off. So they do that, and they present it. This is food for people who cannot easily get their own food. But I want my fruit to be filled with the kinds of things they're supposed to be filled with, like, again, magnesium, potassium, calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium sulfate. That's there's about 13 of them. I'm not going to mention them all because I really don't want to. And as we're getting to the halfway point here, Mr. Cameraman, we're gonna go over to the pear tree after a while, and I'm gonna keep talking. But as I pick, and as you say to yourself, oh geez, what's pyrethrin? What is she talking about? Okay, well, okay, this looks right here. This looks like you clean this up, you take a picture of it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. Now, as you can see, that this isn't filled with holes. There's a little bit, some of this brown stuff on here is due to the fact that it's the end of the season, and these leaves are going to turn brown, okay? They're not filled with a lot of bugs. There's maybe a little rust on the leaf, but some of this is due to the fact that it is the end of the season. I keep talking about pyrethrin. I'm going to keep going back to that over and over and over again. Now, before we switch to the pear tree, I want to talk about this a little bit. As I said, this is going to the Salvation Army. I'm going to pick a whole bunch. Even if I'm not on camera, I'm going to still pick a whole bunch, and then I'm going to pick a bunch of pears too. All right. By the way, the pear, I have a Bartlett pear and a Bramlett pear. We're only going to go to the Bramlett pear over here, okay? Because you have to have it where you live. You have to have trees that are hardy enough to stick within your area, that can make it through a winter time, even a harsh winter time, okay? There's been a few winters, and this is not climate change. This is what happens. Everything changes. Yeah, we do have climate change. It always revolves. It's always changing. It's been changing since the beginning of time. And they sometimes cannot make it through 40 degrees below zero. They're just not bred for that, okay? If you buy a hybrid bred apple tree, pear tree, plum, peach, whatever, you got to make sure that it goes with the zone that you're in. Now, where I live, I'm in zone 4. And some of the places that get really, really cold, like if it's always in the shadow of a tree, it might be zone 3. If you don't live up here, and a lot of you watching this don't, you might be in zone 5. You might be in zone 6. Hopefully you're not in zone 2 or 1, because that's really cold. Okay, so as I pick these and avoid the piles of the animal dung down here, yes, we do have a lot of different animals that come out through our woods. And no, I don't like the two-legged critters that come and just take their own and take my apples to make their own pies. I don't like people doing that. I can deal with the four-legged critters. I've been doing that my whole life. But the two-legged critters, don't let me catch you. You will regret it. All right, so I'm going to stop a little bit. And before I tell you what pyrethrin is, okay, this is just a regular yard shovel. And if you want to keep your weeds down, you know, mow around your tree. You got to mow around your tree. It's a regular shovel. It's a garden shovel. You know, you just go like this, and, you know. And if you live, this is what I do a lot of times around when my apple trees are small. I just do that. Make sure there's a little bit of air and moisture that can get in there. You can do this around your plant. You don't have to hit your plants. It does nothing. If you get a prize lawn and you don't want people to see this, you know, you want grass growing and everything, you mostly won't do this. But one of the things that I did when this apple tree was much smaller, okay, this is a regular shovel. Here's what you do in the fall. Take your rake. A lot of people will take it and they'll rake this stuff out like this. Now this apple tree is getting too big. See, it's near the pine trees, and the soil is going to change a little bit with pine needles. It's going to be more acid. You don't want acid for apple trees because you want them sweet. You don't want them bitter. Now, there are some things that you really do like, you know, to be bitter. Like, for instance, if you have, if you're living, say, down in Florida, you don't want sweet lemons. You want bitter, I mean, not bitter, but lemony lemons, you know, with more acid in it, or oranges, you know, limes. You want that kind of soil. If you have an apple tree, though, you don't want to use pine needles as your mulch. You want to use maple leaves, not pine needles. You want to use the stuff that's not going to raise the acidity level in your soil. And what goes in your soil is really, really, really important, because it'll change the thickness of a skin on, say, a grape. If you have not enough of one mineral and too much of another one, it might make the grape or the tomato, for instance, or the peach, it might make it a little bit bitter. Apples go through a change. Okay, they go through every single season. They go through a change. And what they have to have is they got to have a chemical change within the skin, the core, and the fruit inside. And that's true for everything, okay? And if you get a change where it's the apple skin is way too thick, something went wrong. You got to have a chemical change, especially in, say, like tomatoes, fruits and vegetables, even peppers, that go from starch to sugar, okay? There's starch in here, and it's got to turn into sugar. It's a chemical change, and you have to have that. And the only way you can have that naturally is by not adding a whole lot of stuff to it, okay? If you spray this tree, say, with something you bought off the shelf, and it's got too much of something in it, like too much of an insecticide that's not made from a flower. Now the flower that the pyrethrin is actually made from, and this is worldwide, is supposed to be a marigold. You can make insecticide from marigolds, petunias, and geraniums, okay? And I make mine from marigolds. I grow a lot of marigolds. I've made it for years and years and years. I've done many demonstrations on it. And by the way, folks, those of you watching public access TV, you're going to start seeing those old demos again, because we're going to start putting them on again. They'll be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Twitter is X, of course. And then Wausau Public Access Television. So, Mr. Cameraman, are we past halfway here? Oh, we are. Okay. Just let me know when it's close to 30 minutes. Maybe we won't move to the pears after all. A bramlett pear is a pear that is apart from a bram tree, okay, a bram. They call them a rambling tree. It has little tiny pears, so not good to eat. They're mostly for the animals. And a Bartlett pear, and it's called a bramlett. And some people say, well, they're from Texas. Well, maybe they are. I don't know for sure. I never really looked that up. But it's hardy enough to make it around here. This is a tree from seed that I grew. I planted the seeds in there 35 years ago, and as you can see, it's really worked out well. Now, when I spray this, I spray it with my own mixture. I take the marigolds, I put them in the containers that I have, and I let the water, so I fill it up with water to the top, let it sit. I usually let it sit for about 5 days, and then I drain off all the water and just take out all the marigold heads and the stems and everything. And I've got my insecticide. That's what I spray it with. That's why there's so many apples on here. And as it gets cold and the apples drop off, I'll see this one doesn't have much red in it, and it does make a difference if they get the tree gets partial sunlight. Some apples will be riper than others quicker. So one of the things that you can do, I have a bramlett pear that doesn't really produce that many pears because what's in the soil is mostly acid. It's from pine trees. I have to sweeten that soil up. And one of the things, Mr. Cameraman, I'm going to use your thing here. One of the things, I've showed you this before. This is Mountain Dew. It's got regular sugar. It's not diet. But you can actually add this sugar. I like to use root beer. Some of the soda goes in the gardener first, but I add it to my pyrethrin or my insecticide made from marigolds. And that helps to sweeten up the soil. Now, another thing that sweetens up the soil and makes it correct pH-wise, that's phosphorus-wise, okay, acidic-wise, acidic and neutral-wise, is nothing more than decayed garden vegetables, decayed apple skins, and this is going back to the basics, pure decayed cow manure. Okay, some people say, oh no, I like chicken manure. Some people, I like lamb manure or sheep manure. I kind of like the cow manure that has not been run through some kind of a machine. They sterilize it with heat. You can do that in your own backyard. I've done it many times. It really stinks when you do that, But man, that's great for your stuff. I'm going to give this back to Mr. Cameraman here. And I will show you how to do that. Okay, well, we're actually running out of time. We're not going to make it to the pear tree. Okay, so anyway, when I start talking, when I do start talking, a lot of times I just go through a lot of stuff. And as I'll tell you a short story, I got a call from the state of Wisconsin just the other day. They wanted to make sure that I'm going to get my fair judge license renewed. They want me at the top of the list. And there's a reason for that, folks, is because I know my stuff. I know it very, very well. I've been doing this for years, and I actually took the courses necessary to get the stuff that I talk about. That's why. UW-Platteville, that's my alma mater. We're not going to make it to the pear tree. We'll have to make another episode out of that. He'll have to tell me when there's about a minute and a half left, which I think is probably coming up pretty fast. As you pick your apples, and some people have automatic apple pickers, you know, or they hire a bunch of people to do that. The branches will straighten out. They'll get rid of the sap for, thank you. They'll get rid of the sap, you know, in order to make it through the wintertime, so that the sap will go actually down back the trunk of the tree. And what will happen is, oh, by the way, before I do anything, this is called a straight edge shovel. And you're not going to go like this to the guy. It's not going to do anything. But what this is really good for is picking up sod. I'm not going to do this here. Or gravel. You pick up gravel. And if there's sod that's
alert has arrived.
something went off there. I don't know what that was, but at any rate, what happens is this is good for you know, just getting underneath stuff, picking up a branch off a trail, something like that. And you know, it's good for a lot of different reasons. I use this to I have a path of round stones laid out, and the grass grows over it, and I just pick it up with this shovel. And as I said before, one more thing here. It's called a sod shovel, okay? You get up underneath the sod, and I'm not really going to lift anything up, and you just lift it up like this, and it cuts the sod off, and then you can throw it out like that. So this right here, this is called a sod shovel, okay? I have many, many different tools here. So at any rate, I'll pick a couple more here. Some of these are going to go inside my house, and we're going to eat them. And then I'll give some away to my neighbors. I'll give some away to my relatives. So, Mr. Cameraman, you're going to have to tell me when it's getting really close to the end here, because I know it is. All right, so pyrethrin is made out of, okay, well, I'm running out of time. It's made out of marigolds, okay? Recetrathin is made out of petunias, and tricetrathin, not tree, T-R-E-E, it's T-R-I, cetrathin is made out of geraniums. When you buy organic stuff, that's the only stuff that should be in there for insecticide. Herbicide's a little bit different story. That has a lot of oils in it. It's from the oil industry. I only spot spray the herbicides that I have, like in my driveway, just to get rid of a plant, mainly because I'm kind of allergic to it. I don't want to use it a lot, and I don't want any trouble with it, so I don't use a whole lot of it. I only use tiny, tiny amounts, and it looks pretty good. It does a pretty good job. Okay, I'm Master Gardener Bernie DeLaNay, Wisconsin State Fair Judge, Department of Agriculture, United States Department of Agriculture, professional horticulturalist, published author, all kinds of stuff with this, that, and the other. I'm Master Gardener Bernie DeLaNay. Until next time, be green, and remember, it's not work. It's fun. Have fun, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.